Okay, East Stroudsburg University track and field with All-American high jumper Christina O'Connor and head coach Chris Murley. And Coach, I'll just start with you. You know, you guys have had 5 All-American women's high jumpers now, starting with Karen Gata. Really nice to see Christina fit herself in this line of ESU All-Americans.
Yes, it really was great. You know, and more impressive on Christina's part. I think we told you this. You know, go down there as a sophomore, and then we had the festival. It was a long week. And then the last event of the meet, and then you're like, oh my God, here we go. You know, we're anxious as coaches, but you know, she responded well. And in a big competition like that, it's about jumping clean at certain heights, and she's 5'7". Karen and I were standing on the sidelines there. Said, this is the money jump, and a couple of the slippery rod coaches there. We said that was the one, so that was the one that separated everybody out. So. Yeah, she did what she needed to do. Almost PR'd again, so she's been consistent all year. And we always tell kids, if they do the mark they did to get there, they're usually an All-American.
Right. Christina, you've jumped in big meets, obviously, in your career in high school and at ESU. You were the PSAC champion. But it's got to be a little bit different when you're there, and you know that everybody has hit, 5'5"3/4" or 5'6", or you're up on the list at 5'8"1/2". I mean, that's it's pretty impressive competition to be in the middle of.
Yeah, it was different. People knowing that I'm not the top seed. Okay.
But you go in, obviously, Coach Murley said you were clean over 5'7", and that was a big one. And then you get down to your last jump at 5'8". You know that you're already an All-American at that point, but to be able to clear that on your final jump, what was that like for you physically to go into it?
It was.
What was going through your mind, Chrissy? I want to know.
Yeah.
On that last jump.
Well, I wanted to beat the people in the PSAC and I don't know, get as high as I could.
Yeah.
And then obviously you hit that mark. You go to 5'9" (1/4". That would be second on ESU's.
That would tie the indoor
list or tie Karen's indoor record.
Yeah, Karen's record.
How were your attempts on that? What were your shots? And would you like to do something different? Obviously on those jumps if you had a chance to.
Yeah, my first 2 were pretty bad. Like diving into it, but the last one was okay.
The last one was a pretty good jump. Yeah.
You go from this meet now to. Certainly the outdoor season coming up, and then for you, the training really is pretty similar between the indoor and the outdoor. They're the same discipline, obviously. What are your goals at this point for the outdoor season?
I want to work on my form over the bar and jump 5'10", hopefully.
And obviously the indoor PSAC champion, something that you'll look to as well to hopefully repeat outdoors. Coach Marley, what's kind of the ceiling for Christina? Because obviously, as a freshman, a sophomore, provisional qualifier last year, All-American now, indoors. You've had a good group of women's high jumpers, as we said, but she can be right there with the
well,
best
Greg,
in the
we
issue.
had this conversation yesterday. Remember coming back with our ice cream, going down the escalator, and I said, how tall do you think the girl from Western Washington was, right? And how far over her head as she jumped? So, I mean, and that's unusual. I mean, Christina's tall, but, and I would say she's probably about maybe 60% there with her technique. Her run is good, and her initial takeoff is good. So a lot of things to work on. And Karen was with us, and we talked about that, after the competition. I think she can jump her own height, and I'll let her tell you how tall she is. So I mean, and she's really had, and she's really a raw high jumper coming out of high school, but and had some chronic injury issues, but probably growing pains, she's growing. But anyway, I mean, I hate to say the sky's the limit, but I mean, she's serious about following through on the training, and Karen is your coach, Karen's record is been here 22 years. About time somebody gets it. So we have a candidate here. If things go right for her, certainly can do that.
What has Coach Gata done for you in your training? As Coach Murley said, you come into ESU. College athletics are a little different than high school as far as the training. How has she helped you?
Well, she basically redid all of my teaching. I didn't have a high jump coach really in high school, so I learned new form and new running techniques and stuff.
And then Coach Marley, certainly again, she's had a great deal of success to this point. Just overall, with the high jump tradition here, you had Lynn Mayer, who was a 6-time All-American.
Right.
Obviously Christina in her first shot at nationals as a
time.
sophomore. It's 3 years down the road,
Yeah,
but right. It's again something that this is maybe with the men's javelin outdoors is a premier event for ESU.
Yeah,
track
and the
field.
PSAC, like we were talking about that at nationals with some coaches. Usually in the women's high jump, you'll see 3 or 4 kids from the PSAC, the women on the women's side, and in the men's javelin, you'll see 3 or 4 or 5 kids in it. It's just, I don't know, just an event. And when you get some good kids in an event, it seems to attract, the competition, which is good. And some years are off years. I think there's the first year, and I can't remember that only one person scored in the high jump for us on the women's side.
Yeah.
I mean, there was years when 4 people scored. So we're making some headway on our recruiting to remedy that situation, get back where we used to be.
Yeah.
But Christy obviously will be the leader of that group.
Aside from your competition on Saturday, what was the rest of the week like for you in Birmingham? You were there for several days with the D2 festival. You get there a few days early. What was the combination of what you did with your downtime and then when you were able to get in the facility and start to train?
We went sightseeing. This guy.
Coach Morley's the tour guide.
Yeah.
Had to keep him in line.
Good.
And when I went, I practiced 2 days. Just mostly drills and a few run-throughs at full.
Was it a little different jumping in a venue like that? I assume it was a larger building than what you're usually in and maybe what the atmosphere was like.
Yeah, the surface was different. It was a lot faster, so I had to back up a lot. And it was more exciting. There's a lot more going on.
Coach Marley, you've been to obviously a lot of national meets.
Fortunately.
I'm not going to ask you to compare this one to some of the others, but just overall, what is the atmosphere like when you're in a building like that? And then every track meet comes down to the 4x4. I know you guys weren't in that event, but
right.
just overall, kind of encapsulate the excitement of that meet.
Well, going to nationals is really, it's just special. And that's why you worry about a young person going, because everyone there is, either like half the girls, I think 3 or more All-Americans, returning.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always, on the women's side, or on even the men's side, there's always a freshman. You got D2, you get somebody who transfers from Central Europe on some of these teams. They deal with some foreign athletes. So you never know what's going to happen. You can never assume that you get there as a sophomore and it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, but the atmosphere is exciting, and they have a top-notch announcer who knows like the distance events. Like usually, track meet, this okay to run around the track 25 times. It's pretty keyed up. Like we watched. We're track fans. We went to the meet on Friday. We watched the Stroudsburg men win the DMR, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
There were some other close events. It's and it's first class. They get the kids right up there, give out the awards, and there's time between the events. It's really a great experience to go, and different parts of the country. And I talked to Christy about it when she was a recruit. I say, hey, you get the tools. It's nice to travel. You certainly can do that. So it's nice to see it happen.
I think this was the second time that the Winter D2 Festival has been held.
Yes.
Were you able to get out to the other venues too? You had the wrestling and swimming there.
Yes, this was a little different than the last one. These were all in the same complex. So we were at the University of Houston, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, and they were on the campus, but it was somewhat of a walk, and the weather was bad. Yeah. But we were able to go down and see. We saw Braden Turner's, unfortunately, his semifinal match, but we saw that, and then we saw Brandon's. McCune's his medal match, so that was nice. We were able to do that, and it was right down the track. In fact, the athletes' lounge was right outside the wrestling venue. So, and we peeked in on the swimming the one day, but the swimming is hard because you know where they are, and once they get in the pool, you don't know who anybody is. They'll have goggles on. Yeah.
And then Chrissy, finally for you, your first experience.